Yes, I made it this far. I am so happy. Okay, let me get set up. We'll find out who we've got in the workshop. Who knows? I've no idea. I do know it's time for a cigarette, though. Jeez. Very nearly ran over time. It was late, basically, to start the live stream. Very nearly. So close. Right, we're opening up. Thank you very much, YouTube. Well, at this point in time, Andy's on his own. But don't worry, there'll be lots of people to join us very shortly. In actual fact, speak of the devil, Mike Adams. Good morning, Mike. Welcome back to the workshop, mate. Mike says, please re-enter your credentials. I don't want that. Okay. Hi, y'all. Was that good? Did that work? I'm not very good at accents. Sorry, Mike. So, I was, as you know, from the last live stream, I have successfully purchased at great expense, and that's my pocket money gone for the next number of years. Try and find the pictures. Recent sounds good. There we go. Okay. Recently acquired a new PC. Okay. Now, we've been having problems, with editing. Mrs. Mechanic's laptop, which does a lot of her editing on, has been crashing. It's been overheating. I'm not a PC guy. I'm not a computer guy. I don't know what's going on. It was about the highest spec Microsoft Surface laptop you could get at the time. It cost me a fortune. But we've gone away from laptops. You can get a lot more power for the same kind of buck with a PC. So we got, you can laugh at this, and the angle of the camera makes the screen look bigger than it is. All right, there you go, Mike. That's for you. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So the screen just is about 3 small monitors wide. In actual fact, it wasn't really any more money than buying a couple of decent monitors, and it was Ben's idea, and it gets rid of that sort of bezel in the middle. Things flow a lot easier. So, why not? Let's give it a go. And it's got a bit of a curve to it, so you've got the same, what did Ben say? The same focal length. If you sit in the middle, look around. So it's supposed to be better for you. It's supposed to be better for your eyes. I don't know. Purple Monkey, hello. Good morning, Purple Monkey. Welcome back to the workshop, mate. And happy 2026. I'm going to be saying that a lot this morning, aren't I? My eyesight at the moment, I slept in, right? Cards on the table, I did sleep in. The alarm woke me up. To me, that's sleeping in, because I normally wake up, maybe 10, 15 minutes before the alarm. We have Connor K in the workshop. Good morning, Connor. And I know I've already messaged you. I think it was on Facebook. I can't remember. Happy New Year, Connor. Another one to another challenge, right? Another year to get through. That's how it feels at the moment, to be honest. It's just, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of opportunities and it's more time and get things done and stuff, but I don't know. The last 2 or 3 years just seem to be, a bit of a trawl, just perpetual. I mean, it's good that they are, but the fact is, just a lot of work. Never really much respite. Hopefully 2026 is gonna change. I've got plans. I'm not gonna say what some of the plans are. Some of the plans are super secret. You will find out in good time. But been sat down with Mrs. Mechanic, and we've had a good chat about what we intend to do. Because you've got to have a plan, right? So we've got a plan for 2026, and I'm going to take you along. It's going to be good. And that was just part of it, because it was doing my head in, was the old computer. My laptop managed okay. It crashed on me once doing the recent Harley video, which was a bit of a pain because I lost a bit of work, had to keep going and do that again. But storage, we've got hard drives stacked up all over the place. 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, you name it, they're all over the place, and they're all full. And that PC setup came with a RAID. I know a bit more about RAID now. We've chosen RAID 5 for anyone that knows what that means. I didn't. I had no idea there were different options of the way it stored your files and duplicated your files and redundancy, they call it. We've gone for RAID 5. We started off with 4 12 terabyte drives. The box will hold 8, but we started off with, couldn't afford 8, so we've got 4. Broke the bank. And then you come to set it up, and it goes, you got 10.9 in each. And I'm like, what? It's a 12. I paid for a 12 terabyte drive. Why is it 10.9? What's going on there? Anyway, so there's a little bit shaved off. And then depending on what RAID setup you choose will dictate your virtual storage space, right? So I think we were like 32 on RAID 5, and it dropped to like 24 or something like that on RAID 6. RAID 6, if 2 hard drives go down, you're still good, right? You still get your files. RAID 5, one of the 4 hard drives fails, and you still get your files. I thought that was okay. That was a good compromise. So fingers crossed. Right, where do we get to? Simon Roll, Happy New Year, Andy and crew. Good morning, Simon. Welcome to the workshop, and Happy New Year to you too, sir. And to all the viewers, Happy New Year. This is 2026. You know, it's got to be a good year, right? Because we've had some pretty crap ones recently. Ever since, I think, 2019, it all turned to shit, didn't it? Anyway. I was editing a video. Well, as you know, I was editing a few videos recently. And there's a screen when you're posting the video, uploading the video to the channel. There's a screen that asks you, it's the one after monetization, and there's lots of questions. You know, is there bad language? Is there offensive language? Is there, you know, all sorts of stuff, right? And I'm reading through it going, whoa. And normally I just flick through and click, nah, there's none of that. We're all good. But I remembered when, within a couple of the takes with Harley, there were, you know, once we'd done our take and it had gone wrong, there was a few swear words, and I thought, I didn't edit those out, and I was busy uploading it. And it said that, you know, it can really affect your rating. And I've got a good rating because they allow me to self-rate at the moment. So I sort of, you know, yeah, we're all good, and it's happy with that. But I thought, that's probably going to tip the scales, because there was a couple of the F words in there. And because Harley's got a mouth on her, right? She has. She's an amazing lass, but, you know, she can swear as good as I can, that's for sure. And so I have to go back in and edit it and just put some bells and whistles and bits and pieces over the swear words. So anyway, I did that. But yeah, it's been fun, right? It's been fun. I enjoyed doing that video. Brought back a lot of fond memories. It really did. You know, what it's all about. So where do we get to? Simon, that's not a computer, it's a cinema screen. It's incredible. And you know what the hardest thing about that screen, and you're gonna laugh now, is getting it first of all in the house, right? Because we only have a little tiny house, and all the hallways are full of crap at the moment, as is the lounge, as is the office. There's just stuff everywhere, as is the kitchen, actually. A big box, right? That box was as tall as Mrs. Mechanic on end, and probably about 2 foot wide, right? Because, you know, there was a lot of packaging in there. They don't want to break one of those screens. Anyway, finally whittled it into the office, started to unpack it, realized the screen was the wrong way around for lifting onto the said workstation. So we had to put the box back together, get it out, work out a way of turning it around in the house. Now, like a muppet, I should have thought, we'll just stand it on end and twistle it, right? But you know, when you're busy, right, you're not thinking straight sometimes. So we had to reverse out. We tried reversing into the bedroom and turn it around. Not enough room in there. So we reversed out and then turned it around outside the bathroom, and that worked. So we go back in there, got the screen out. Lifting the screen out, unbelievable, right? You know, because you don't want to break it, and you do imagine that they're quite delicate. So anyway, we got it up there in one. Bush. In fact, I just said to Mrs. Mechanic, let me do it on my own. I'll just straight up there, job done. That screen's never going to get moved, honestly. Way too expensive for that. Mike Adams. Y'all, here we go. Y'all is actually a condensed version of Old English. Ye all, yes, with the bell. Ye all, ding 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 ding, ye all. Hear me now, or he I don't know, news. When they used to give the news, verbally. Town crier, that was the name of the guy, wasn't it? Here in the southern US, seated by Scottish. Well, there you go, Scottish and Irish. But no, in London they used to have town criers and ye all. I suppose, yeah, it is. But I mean, I don't remember because, like, I wasn't around back then. But I do remember from movies and stuff. So thank you, Mike. But but I've got to say it in an American accent, or try to at least, because it came from you, right? Um, I don't know. I don't know. Settled, not seated. Damn spell check. Ah, there we go. That's all right. Yeah. Oh, I see. Honestly, my eyesight, ran over that. Anyway, very blurry today. I was outside all day yesterday working on the deck, and it was quite windy, and I got a lot of dust in my eyes. So I had a lot of sleepy crap stuff to dig out this morning, which hasn't helped. Virginia Governor. Good evening, Andy and crew. Happy New Year to all. Hope all had good holidays. Vijayant, holidays. Yes, today is my last day. I'm back at work tomorrow. It's not ideal, to be honest. I've got a lot of shit to get done. So I'm back at work for a week, Monday to Friday, working from home. That's the plan. Might all change. And then I go up to Auckland actually on next Sunday morning. I've got some stuff to do in Auckland on Sunday. And then I'm at head office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Come home Thursday. That's the plan. Might end up staying up there all week. I just don't know. And then the following week, which I think is the 19th, I think it starts, I've got off. Now, that might have been a possum. Oh, Ben killed a possum the other day with a bit of metal. Yes, it stuck its head round. He was wandering across the roof, stuck his head round the corner where I've made some doors, but they're not being fitted yet. Off the roof void, stuck his head around there. So Ben decided to eradicate the possum, which he did. Man, there was some loud bangs because there was a couple of misses, but he got it. He was very, very happy. So that's one down. Anyway, so what was I've forgotten now. So I've got a week off, so there'll be some filming that week, which will be great. I'm looking forward to really cracking into the 2026 filming schedule, which is one of the things that Mrs. Mechanics brought forward to the table. You've got to write down what videos you're going to do, Andy, so you actually remember to do them. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, I used to do that kind of stuff, and work just got in the way, and anyway, projects and stuff. Right, so Richard Perry, Happy New Year, Richard. Welcome back to the workshop, matey. 2026, another year. Here we go. Andy, hi Andy and crew. Happy New Year, all. GB badge. I always forget which side it is. GB badge, and a thumbs up. There you go. Easy. Thanks, Richard. Mike Adams, not a problem. I just think the history of how much the English language changed and didn't both sides of the pond. We were talking about this only yesterday, right? Me and Mrs. Mechanic. It was last night, I think it was. She was saying that there was a colour came on the TV, right? And she goes, in New Zealand, that's aubergine, right? But they call the vegetable an eggplant here in New Zealand, which I think stems from the US. But when the colour comes up, they call it aubergine colour. Honestly, you can't make this kind of stuff up, right? It's like they're just stolen little bits of language without any understanding. It's most bizarre. Strimmers, right? A strimmer for cutting the grass, cutting, around the edges and stuff. You know what a strimmer is? The big one up there. They call it a weed whacker. I remember working at Henderson Yamaha, first job at Yamaha dealership here in New Zealand, and the boss, it was quiet, and he says, "Oh, go and get the weed whacker." And I'm like, "What's he on about? A stick?" I had to go back and say, "What are you on about, weed whacker?" And he says, "Oh, the thing that does the weeds." Sort of, you know, oh, strimmer. And he's like, what, strimmer? I don't know why is weed whacker American? American? I don't know, but it sure as hell isn't English. It's a strimmer, we call it. Anyway, but probably weed whacker is probably a better name for it, really, because that's what it's doing, isn't it? It's whacking the weeds. Simon. Being smart about things, we try, don't we, Simon? This doesn't always work. I got the missus a car that is 90% the same parts as my van engine. Now, that is smart, because, you know, it's always good to have parts for your van, right? And and gearbox too. So the caliper I had to change is rebuilt and in stock, just in case just in case one's shy of a full set now. That's useful to have spare calipers. We used to do that with little Suzuki Jeeps back in the UK. We used to have loads. I used to rebuild calipers on quiet days. Same with starter motors and alternators and all that kind of stuff. Just rebuild them all, put them on the shelf, ready to go. And it made life a lot easier because sometimes we needed the whole fleet. And if we had a vehicle suddenly go down, you got to turn it around quick because you've got customers waiting. Because some days we were fully booked. Every single vehicle we had was in use that day. And we had a lot of vehicles. It was crazy. I nearly didn't get a coffee this morning. I was running that late. Right. Sam's outdoors. Morning, Sam. How are you doing, Andy? From the US of A. I'm all right. I'm a bit tired, actually. I mean, I know I always say this. I think I'm a bit like a lithium battery, right? I think about 75% is my full charge state now. I sort of wake up by mid-morning, early afternoon, I'm good to go, you know, for a few hours in the middle of the day. And then I start to flag again by about 3:30. Worst thing ever is afternoon break, which is about 3:30. You have your coffee and a cigarette and whatever. And maybe a little snack, you know, maybe a cookie or something, you know, because we used to do that with my mates. And then it's that final push. Struggle again for about an hour to about 4:30. And then all of a sudden, go into overdrive, right? Got to get this done, you know? Yeah, we'll finish this today, you know? And I'm still outside at 7:30 at night. Get inside, shower, tea, in front of the telly for about 7:30. By 10 o'clock, fast asleep on the sofa. It's just, that's welcome to my world. Other days, I just give up at 5 o'clock. Oh, you know, got to finish at 5, have a normal day, you're all good. And then can't get to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's bizarre, isn't it? It's just, honestly, what we have to put up with. Mike Adams, I find the history fascinating. It's not something I think about every day, Mike, to be fair. It's not. But I can understand why you would. But every now and again, a word pops up and you're like, what does that mean? Or where did that come from? And I do actually research that, you know, and Google the crap out of it, basically. Because we're interested. You know, me and Mr. Mechanic were like brainstorming, what could it mean? What's that? You know? And then we work it out and we talk about it, and it's cool. It's nice to have a little discussion around a word now and again. It sounds boring, doesn't it? But it's not. It's not boring at all. Mike Adams, I can relate on the projects. I have too many started projects trying to catch them up. Honestly, Mike, it's just a go-kart, right? You know, laughing stock. Not too sure how I'm going to do that because Ben's been using his pipe bender recently to do an external roll cage. Well, it's not really a roll cage, external cage on his patrol pickup. Personally, I don't like it. I think it's way over the top. It detracts from the lines of the patrol. I think and he's got problems because it is just an external cage and he doesn't want to bolt it anywhere through the roof. So of course the bars are not particularly rigid. They're sort of flapping around a bit and stuff. And I'm gonna try. I know I spent a lot of work on it, but I'm gonna try and talk him out of having the external cage. Bush bars, no problem. We're past the wings like I had on my patrol. They're great. They're really good. But to have all the other stuff that he's done, for what he's going to use the patrol for, I don't think he really needs it, to be honest. And if he was, then I think he should put an internal cage, external cage on it, which then you do brace through the roof. but I mean going through cert again. So, and he doesn't want to do that, and he's not going to buy an internal and external cage because that would be a fortune for one of those. Probably have to get it specially made. But it would protect the vehicle if you did have a rollover in an off-road environment. I don't know. It's a difficult one. At the moment, it just doesn't look right. It doesn't look right, and structurally it's not right. At the moment, the welds are going to crack. He's going to get a few thousand Ks under his belt, and he's going to be having to weld the thing up all the time. That's my take on it. But you know, it's his truck. He can do what he wants. He's got to learn just like I did. I did all sorts of stupid stuff years ago. Where do we get to? How do we get onto that? I don't know. Projects. Yes. So, pipe bender. Ben's pipe bender I don't think will do the tight radius that we need to do for the front edge of the frame. I've got the tube up there. I don't know how we're going to do that yet. I've got to look into it a bit more. It's becoming quite a bit of a problem, is that go-kart project. But anyway, all the other bends are nice and shallow, and they were easy, and I could do those with my little pipe bender. But I'm pretty sure my little pipe bender will not do that thicker pipe. I might have to get, warm it up somehow and bend it hot. But I don't want to damage your pipe bender. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Don't know what's going to happen, in all honesty. The other option is, the magic slit disc, bendy bend, weld it all up, grind it all flat. Big job, but it would work, and it'll definitely be strong enough for that job. So that's my plan B. And it's free, is that? It's just a bit of work in it, rather than buying more stuff. Well, honestly, where do we get to? Honestly, this is a terrible live stream, Andy. Mike Adams. Oh, hang on. Sorry, there's been so many comments. With her car being the same, my thinking is I can always get one going. You see, you've got that redundancy. I like that. Zombie apocalypse. Damn, that car's not working. This now. Get in the workshop. An hour later, one of them will allow you to escape. Perfect. Good job, Simon. Mike Adams, I have leftover brake calipers from my old Ford. I'm thinking of rebuilding them and saving them as a just in case. I enjoy building calipers as long as not too grotty. They're actually, I've done hundreds of calipers over the years. Hundreds just on the SJ 410s, 413s. We used to focus on the Japanese caliper. Every vehicle we had, every little Suzuki we had, all had the Japanese calipers fitted, so they all took the same brake pads. And all the little quad bikes, blue ones, yes, very loyal. We had 42 of those, and all of them got my rear disc conversion kit. So we used to take the drum off, cut some of the bearing carrier, and mount a caliper bracket that I had laser cut, and a disc onto the shaft. The disc bolted on where the drum used to bolt on, and then the Suzuki caliper would go on. It was honestly, right, the brakes were brilliant. It was a really good mod. So we did all our bikes, and it made them a lot better. It was a huge improvement, and the brake pads were cheap as chips. And Suzuki Jeep brake pads in a quad bike would last forever, almost. They last for ages. What we used to do is change the brake pads in the Suzuki Jeeps, and any pads that came out that were like half worn, they would go into the quad bikes, and they would last a few months, especially in the summertime. They were great. So essentially, we ran the quad bikes for free on brake pads. So we saved a lot of money, because the original brake shoes, A, were really expensive and did not last very long at all, because we used to go through a lot of mud on the quad bikes, because that's what you do on a quad bike. You go through mud and water pools and things, and it's fun. But the brakes didn't like it. But the new brakes, great. They worked brilliantly straight after going through a water pool. So way over braked. You could lock the back wheels up whenever you wanted. It was fantastic. Where do we get to? My word, Andy, you're jumping around. Mike Adams, that's what I'm doing now, is cleaning up in my shop, or cleaning up my shop. Sorting through leftover parts, what to keep, what to sell, and what to scrap. We've done a lot of that recently here, actually. 22 pallets worth, actually, we've sorted through. It was a massive job. It took us about 2.5 months to get it all done, on and off. And we did. The garden's so much tidier now. I feel like part of me is gone, which is sad, but I also feel a huge weight off my shoulders because I don't have all that crap down the garden anymore. And the bank account, it helped, you know, because some of it got weighed in for scrap, and that's good. And scrap money at the moment is not too bad, so it worked out pretty well. It wasn't enough to pay for the new computer, though. I know that. Nowhere near. Right. Moldenite? Moldenite. Yeah, Moldenite. Do you remember, do you recommend using heavier weight engine oil than is recommended by the manufacturer if you live in a very hot climate like Southwest US of A? Okay, so the weight of engine oil, you're quite correct, you know, it does depend on the temperature range of the country that you live in. And usually in the front of an owner's manual, there'll be a chart and it's got, you know, temperature and so on along one of the thingies, and the oil type down the other axis. And you can basically choose from that. It'll recommend what you should be using. Ultimately, the oil wants to have the correct viscosity, or within the accepted viscosity range when the engine's cold and at operating temperature, within that working environment. So in a really hot country, would you use thicker oil? I think you do. I'd have to look in the manual, to be honest. I always go with the manufacturer's recommendations. Those guys have done thousands of hours of testing on that engine in the R&D side of things, and they've worked out what's best. I don't like to deviate from that. So if you've got the owner's manual for the vehicle, have a little look in there. There should be a page and it'll give you the information that you need, just to make sure that you get the right advice. There's no point in me, just stick some thick oil in it, you're right, mate, because it can actually be quite damaging to the engine. On a cold morning, the oil's a bit too thick, you know, and then you start to get excessive wear, accelerated wear on your shells and that kind of stuff, until the thick gloopy oil finally makes its way around the engine. But if you're in a hot country, I understand the logic and you should be fine, but double check. If you've got the owner's manual, you might be able to download the owner's manual, actually. They're usually online. A lot more online than the service manuals. They're getting quite hard to find sometimes. Sam's Outdoors. I've learned a lot from your channel and I appreciate your teaching. Well, that's what it's all about, Sam. And you sort of hit a nail on the head there. The channel was set up to transfer knowledge. And I mean, you know, I have been making a lot of videos in recent years on a particular brand of vehicle, which at the moment can't go on the channel. Those regular viewers know exactly what I'm talking about. It was a deal that I struck to have the day job that I've got now. And understandable, you know, conflict of interest. So the number of videos for diagnostics and repairs and stuff that have gone on the channel have been quite limited, and I accept that. And that's for a number of different reasons. It's not just the first reason that I gave you, but time constraints as well. So 2026, I've got a new project. I know, here we go, Andy, another project, right? But this one is my project, right? The go-kart, it's not my project. I mean, I've taken it on and I will see it through. There's no problem there. It will get done. It's an interesting little project, but I need the time to do it. We've got Ben's engine stand just behind me. It's very nearly finished. A couple of days and it's out the door, right? Probably 3 days, including the painting, and it's out the door. At the moment, Ben's not panicking for that engine stand. He does ask me now and again, but again, it's not mission critical. Doing the little winch, the mobile winch frame thing, which is over there for my trailer, that was mission critical because I needed that to be able to load the lathe on the trailer. As it turns out, it's still here and the lathe is still in Auckland. But watch this space. Things have moved on a little bit from the last time we spoke about it, and for the better. So, you know, surprise coming. Okay. Without giving you too much away, I'll tell you the full story when it's time to tell you the full story. At the moment, let's just put it on the back burner for now. It's a good one. It's a really good story, right? And there's no bullshit. What I tell you will be the God honest truth. Okay. So thank you, Sam. I do appreciate that. And you will see more educational type learning videos over the next few years, for sure. Incidentally, the little winch video that I did of how to wire up an electric winch using that cage, that module, is doing really well, actually. I think 1,900 people now have found it quite useful on how to wire up their winch. So it works out really well. Far better to wire up a winch in like an open frame like that, where you can see where all the wires go and stuff, than it is on a vehicle. On a vehicle, it's a bit hard to see what's going on, really. So I'm pleased that I held back until I built that project. Simon Rawle, a lot of languages are so mixed up to each other. A lot of French and Norse are mixed into English. They are. I mean, croissant, right? I like my little chocolate croissants. You know, I like my croissants. You know, cheese, ham and cheese croissant. Baguette, another one. You know, I love big baguette sandwiches. They're great. Cheese and pickle. Oh, phenomenal. Yeah, foot long cheese and pickle. Perfect. Deja vu. You know, I used to study French. I learned, was it fermez la fenêtre? Shut the window. Asseyez-vous, sit down. I did 7 years of French and learned very, very, very little of it. Had no real interest in learning French, but through school was forced to learn French. Went to go and live in Barcelona for a few months, working for Mercedes at their engine and gearbox plant, and picked up loads of Spanish. It was great, you know. Not going to say the phrases that I learned. Involved a lot of nightclubs and bars and things. Very useful phrases. We won't go there. But no, Lomo, right? A Lomo. I never forget that. Un cerveza Lomo, por favor. Right? So, cerveza, I can't pronounce it now. Beer, right? Good beer. And then a Lomo is like the back, the meat from the back of a pig in basically like a hot dog bun. And then you get this Balladorex, starts with the V, Balladorex sauce. And unbelievable. If you ever go to Barcelona or to Spain, ask for a Lomo, right? Lomo with Balladorex sauce. Perfect. You probably find the sauce on the bar counter, to be fair. Really good. Miss it a lot. Yeah, so you're right, Simon. There's a huge mix of language, you know, and the origins and stuff. I wish I'd taken more interest in English, to be fair, English language. I was terrible at it. But I do pretty well on my emails these days. But more from a technical perspective, really. Vijay, how far are you with the engine stand that you are busy making? Well, all it needs left now is we've got the ends of the box section. They need some plates welding on. Easy, right? Real easy. We've got a plate to fit to the upright, top of the upright, which has to be bolted because we need access to the bolts that hold the hub on. And that's going to have a handle welded to the plate. So the handly plate will be bolted down. So there'll be some angle iron to weld inside the tube and stuff. So you can move the thing around because at the moment there's no leverage. So you need a handle to be able to steer it. Hopefully that's going to work okay with the arrangement down the bottom. I think the engine's heavy enough to hold the whole thing locked, so to speak. If it isn't, I'll have to come up with another plan for that. What else? It needs painting. And I also need to decide what I'm going to do for the engine, so the engine block to engine holder interface. Big word, right? Do I do the standard 4 little arms that are adjustable, which was the original plan, like Ben's got on his original hoist? Do I just steal the ones off his original hoist because that's going to be scrapped anyway? That'll be quick, but you're not making it, Andy, and I like to make things. Or do I just make some kind of like adapter plate with a big hole in the middle to allow the crank to protrude into it? And just have that. Because that will be stronger, but I don't have enough of the big thick steel to do a complete plate. So it might be, you know, two. I'm just thinking about it now. Actually, it might just be two smaller plates that bolt to the spinny around square plate and bolt to the engine. That would be easy to do. So that, and they'd be very strong, and so that could be the answer. We've just worked it out. That, and I've got enough to do that. So that's probably what we're going to do. And I've got the steel plate that goes between the gearbox and the engine that I can use as a template, so I can get it perfectly marked up, which would be great. And the bolts will be shorter as well, so that's a bonus. I might have the right bolts then. So there you go. That's where we are. I reckon, including the filming, probably about 3 days work. But we're not going to film painting it, you know, because that's boring. But maybe a couple of days of filming. Okay, where are we going? Where are we going? Hang on. Did I jump around again? Oh yes, there we go. Here we go. Sorry, I scrolled down too far. Simon, time to get an induction heater for the pipe. I think so. I don't like oxyacetylene. Gas takes too long. I think an induction heater would be a good idea, actually. I'll look into that. Good idea, Simon, and very useful for lots of other things as well, getting bolts out and stuff. Ben would like that. He's quite into that kind of stuff. Sam's Outdoors. Any plans for future tool girls? Wow, what a question. How do I answer that? I can't. At the moment, Sam, I can't answer it. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes. I can't answer it. All right. So just hold that thought. Okay. Mike Adams. The worst part about calipers and wheel cylinders are seized bleeders. Seized breeders. It's a typo. Seized bleeders that break off. Yeah. The trick. And I don't want to sound like a dick, right? The trick is not to break them off in the first place, but it's very easy done. The Spanish calipers on the SJ410s were renowned for it. The bleed nipples were, can I say that on YouTube? I can, because it's called a bleed nipple, right? The bleed nipple is very thin sidewall and they snap off dead easy. The Japanese ones, much, much better. But I hear you, and I've snapped off loads over the years. And I also don't like using heat on calipers either, but sometimes you have to do. Yeah, I remember on the CB750 that we did a few years ago, and I'd finished it, right? I pretty much finished the filming. We're all done. It's about to go back to Alan, and the threads on the front caliper pulled on the bleed nipple. I was just bleeding it up. It felt a bit spongy. I thought I'll give it another bleed. Bleeding it up, pop. There go the threads. No. So I fitted a time cert, right? I know you shouldn't do that on a brake caliper, but I fitted a time cert to solve the problem and get the bike back to Alan. I said, you have to buy a new front brake caliper, right? You're not to ride the bike with that brake caliper on. I did it so that the thing's complete. You could maybe ride it around the block, you know, nice to have it back, that kind of stuff. But when it gets another plate and goes on the road, you're not to ride with that caliper. Just order a new caliper, let me know when it's in, I'll come down, we'll fit it, we'll bleed it, job's a carrot. Bike's still got the same brake caliper on. What do you do, right? You try and be safe for people. Simon, Mike Adams, you need an induction heater too. Be a much better way of doing it. Mike Adams, yeah, that's my plan. Sell or scrap all parts for my Ford project to help fund my Ford project. Yeah, that's the best way. Where are we going to get to? Oh, Muldernight. Cool, thanks. No problem. Jim Haynes. Good morning, Jim, and Happy New Year 2026. There we go. I even made a little banner thing for the woohoo 2026. Here we go. In for the ride. So, Jim. So, I missed the beginning. You scrapped some older stuff not worth rebuilding. We scrapped a lot of stuff, to be honest. One of the problems we have, or have had, not anymore, right? We've built the side port, but storage, dry storage. Sure, we've got the workshop, but it's already full and I can't store loads of stuff in here. I had enough stuff down the garden that would have filled this workshop twice over. That's a lot of stuff. And we're talking palletized. So I could have brought Trevor the tractor in, stacked up the pallets, probably too high, all the way to the end, and that would have been the workshop gone. We had a little silver shed. That's now the potting shed, so that's not storage zone anymore. I've lost that. Ben's workshop is already full of all his stuff. Can't put anything in there. Ben's got a storage shed full of motorcycles and stuff we really have to keep, and he has to keep. I've got a little bit of stuff in there, including a motorcycle, I think, maybe two. And we've got, so until the side port was built, we didn't really have any dry storage other than under the house port where we had the fun bus and the adventure trailer, which had to be kept, out of the rain and stuff because, well, first of all, it was the fun bus and there's no way that's standing out in the rain. Plus, we used to use the back of it to store cement, for all our concreting jobs. So again, it was serving a purpose. So the stuff down the garden was palletized and tarpaulins put over it and all that kind of stuff to try and keep it all good. And some of the pallets survived pretty well. Some of the pallets didn't survive very well at all. And realistically, we did manage to salvage some stuff, and I have kept some stuff. Don't get me wrong, I've not thrown everything out, which will feature in future videos. I am very confident. And there's a lot of stuff that I've kept, and that's under the side port in those 1,000-litre bin things, liquid things that we've used for. We call them pods, right? They're in the pods. So we've cleared out the bottom of the garden. I've got the Everest mound of earth, which is about half gone now. I was Trevor the tractor in up there, trying to get the last of the pallets out, so we've moved some of that soil. We've sort of made a plan to build a storage shed down the bottom of the garden, a big storage shed, big enough to get Trevor the tractor in. So it's going to be about 7 or 8 meters deep, and it's the full width, fence to fence of the garden, which is about another 12, 13 meters. So it's going to be bigger than the side port. I know, that's big, right? It's going to be bigger than the side port. And I'll be able to store everything and anything I need to store in there. There'll be plenty of room, more room than I need. So I can actually get Trevor the tractor in, turn him around in there, stack the pallets, put things on racking, whatever I need to do. Probably put things on racking would be a better idea. Start to categorize, work out what's what, put it in bins, so that I've got that to draw on in the future. Massive undertaking and a big expense, but that's the next project. It's probably not going to happen in 2026. We might get the posts in and concreted, but that's probably all we're going to do because those posts are pretty expensive on their own. We'll be using the 200 by 200 posts again, just like we did for the side port, because they are awesome. And they, speaking from experience, they cope with impacts from Trevor the tractor. They do. That was the plan, and they are tried and tested and mechanic approved now. Yeah. Oh, hang on. It's because there's so many comments. I keep falling behind. Sorry, chaps. Good to have lots of things to talk about, though. Yes, so Jim Haynes, hopefully that explains things. I have kept a lot of stuff, but a lot of the engine case. And I had a lot of old ATV engines that I was given, and two-wheeler engines. They've all gone now. They were just. The plan was just to do some videos, autopsy videos, pull them apart, find out what went wrong. Would have been great videos, but the engines were in such bad condition by then that it would just been a horrible video. There'd been rust in there and all sorts of stuff. So I decided, hey Andy, you've got plenty of contacts. It's easy to get hold of engines that have failed. So I'm going to put the word out and see if I can gather up a few more over the next year or so, and then we can pull those apart and see what's actually gone wrong with them. I like that kind of stuff. I do. I really like it. And they're, don't get me wrong, they're actually quite a cheap video to make, whereas rebuilding an engine and paying for all the parts and stuff, it becomes really expensive then. And we have got Ben's Patrol engine to do a full strip down, measurements, all the work to do and the rebuild. So that would be a really cool series of videos that's on the back burner, probably for for later this year. We're going to make a start on that. But again, Ben's got to, start to buy all the bits and pieces. We've got to get it on the engine stand, and then we can start to pull the Funbus engine apart. It might not be that one that goes back together. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I do know a lot of the history of that particular engine, and well, you saw it start, right? It was in good nick. It wasn't particularly powerful, but it was super reliable. Right. Jim Haynes. Wiring diagrams free online have become impossible to find. Manufacturers, I think, because through legislation, have had to, and this has happened with motorcycles more recently, have had to provide diagnostic ports that anybody can use on their vehicles. No longer have you got this encrypted communication stuff going on and only authorized dealers having access. Sure, you can buy aftermarket scan tools and stuff, and they can get the OBD2 data. They don't have the full, usually the full access to what the manufacturer's diagnostic tool can access. So manufacturers thinking, well, how else can we try to keep this information within our network so that customers have to come back to an authorized dealer to have the work done? And I think that's maybe why things like service manuals have really tightened up in recent years. But hard to get hold of. And realistically, you need a contact, somebody in the industry at one of those dealerships that can get you the information that you need. I've got a few of those, so I'm quite fortunate, but a lot of people don't. And again, back in the day, a lot of the service manuals were in PDF format. They could just send you the whole service manual. Now, a lot of the service manuals are online only, and you can only view them page by page or at least section by sections. And sometimes they don't even allow you to print them out. So you've got to do a screenshot and print that. And it becomes a bit of a palaver and quite time consuming. I found it very, very difficult to get a service manual for Trevor the Tractor. I managed it in the end, although there's nothing in there on how to change the hydraulic oil. And I've even asked Kubota, right? And no response from their technical guy. The equivalent guy to me, but for Kubota, didn't even respond to my email. That's bad. Kubota, that's really bad. I need to know, if you're listening, the process of changing the hydraulic oil on my tractor, my Kubota tractor. It costs me a lot of money. But they won't tell me. I've asked the dealer, and he can tell me how to do it. But is that the official way of doing it? Because that's what I put in the videos, right? I like to show the proper way of doing things so that everybody knows. So yeah, Jim Haynes, wiring diagrams, service manuals in general, hard to get hold of. Specs, data. I do the race homologation here in New Zealand for the race bikes, right? For a particular brand of race bike. And the homologation guys, Motorcycle New Zealand, they are MNZ. Real great guys. I mean, they're very helpful. But they send out there's a blank form to fill out for each model every year for race homologation, and there's a lot of specs in there, to do with engine components. Bore, stroke, all that kind of thing. They're easy. But there's some other stuff which is, a bit more technical. And some of the information the manufacturers now don't provide. They're like, nah, this is internal. Nah, not having that. Can't provide it. Not available. And it's like, well, I have to fill this form out completely for the bike to be race homologated. Without the information, it won't be race homologated. It essentially won't be able to race. And we're a bit of a loggerhead at the moment. It's difficult, It's like, well, without the information, I can't do my job. So information is getting harder and harder to obtain. You're absolutely right. Big problem. Mike Adams, Jim Haynes, correct. Parts beyond rebuild. Parts beyond rebuild. Rebuild able condition. Yeah. Jim Haynes, the French, it can say Ragnalt. Ragnald. Don't get that. Jim K. Hello. Happy New Year, Jim. You get the sign. There you go, look. Happy New Year. 2026. Here we come. Will 2026 be the year that I make it to the US? I don't know yet. I'd like to think so. I really would. There's no reason why not. It's only a plane ticket, right? So maybe I'll give you a hand in your workshop for a few days. We'll see. I'd like that. Be cool. Be really cool. Just to get away. Do stuff. Simon. Worked with Filipinos, only learnt how to swear. I think there's a couple of Filipinos at the scrapyard that I go to now to weigh in the scrap. Great guys. So if you're watching, I know one of the lads does watch the channel. Big shout out to Phoenix Scrap Metal Merchants in Taupo. Good lads. Big fans of the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel now. And super helpful. And one of the lads, man, he's a whiz on the fork hoist and the forklift. Again, they call it a fork hoist in New Zealand. In England, we call it a forklift truck, right? Naharang 7791. I like your hair. How long did it take for you to grow it that long? Well, thank you very much. I do get the odd compliment now and again. I get a lot of stares and a lot of like, what the, you know, that kind of stuff. But I like it, you know, it sort of works. But the sad thing is, it is day by day, it is thinning out. So at some point, there won't be enough for a ponytail. I know, it's going to be a sad day. But I like it, you know, it's different. Very different. And, you know, Mrs. Mechanic's come to like it now, I think, she says. I think so. Good time. I also like having my hair down. I don't have my hair down on camera, but often on an evening and stuff, I have my hair down. But I find it really annoying because it's long, you know, and it gets trapped under my arms and things, and I move my head and it pulls my hair out. But anyway, that's my problem, not yours. It all started 2020 when we had the first lockdown. My hair was getting long, annoyingly long, not like this, but just annoyingly long. So when I was grinding and stuff, it was going in my eyes, and the sweat was basically running down the hair, going in my eyes, making my eyes sting, and I was getting really annoyed. Mrs. Mechanic says, look, just come here, we'll put your hair up. And I'm like, I was very reluctant to do that. Anyway, she found a plasticky thing and put my hair up, and from that point on, I was sold. It was like, oh, yeah, I actually quite like having long hair. This is all right, is this? It's different, you know, while I still can, for not very much longer. But why not? Let's see how long I can grow it. And I think it's about got to its limit now. It's about, when it's down, it's about a third the way down my back. About sort of, I don't know, break nipple height, bleed nipple height, there you go, about, roughly. I don't think it'll get any longer. But no, appreciate the compliment, thank you very much. It's distinctive, and that was the idea, to be distinct, to stand out a little bit, you know, because, you know, YouTube personality these days, subs are going up and down at the moment. I know what's going on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the recent couple of recent videos, the Sam and the Harley archive videos. There'll be another one. In fact, there might be another one for Sam, because we found some more videos yesterday, some more rushes. So there's a possibility. We'll just keep putting them on the back burner, and hopefully they'll filter through during the year. I mean, there's been a lot of tool girls, right? So there's a lot of footage, about 130 odd videos worth, to go through and see what bits were edited out of the original video, and then see if they're any good. Are they entertaining in whatever way? And then I can include them in the next, you know how it is. It's dead simple, but it takes a lot of time, and that's the problem. And over Christmas, I had a bit of time. You know, we had a lot of bad weather, so there's no point going outside. You know, rather than just do nothing, do something, Andy. And I like to do things. I have to feel productive every day. Otherwise, I feel bad. Gets me down. Simon, PTFE tape in the bleed nipple stops them from seizing. That's a good one, and helps with bleeding. by stopping air being sucked in. Yes, that's a good one, Simon. And I did do a video on my pneumatic brake bleeder, which is up there. When I was at Unitec teaching, that's one of the things we taught. We taught manual bleeding. I taught how to use a pneumatic brake bleeder. And the problem with the pneumatic brake bleeder is obviously it's using vacuum. It's sucking from the caliper through the brake line system from the mass cylinder. And it seemed that, I was like, man, we're always getting bubbles. We never seem to get clean, clear, bubble-free brake fluid coming out of the caliper. What's going on? This doesn't seem right. Okay. So what we did is we took the bleed nipple out and we put some grease around the threads, put it back in, and that temporarily solved the problem. So you could get, a few seconds of clear, bubble-free brake fluid without any air being sucked in. It was being sucked in down the threads of the bleed nipple and then up and under and through with the fluid. And it was really annoying. And I used that as a demonstration to students as to where the air was coming from. But it made it ambiguous. They didn't know whether the brake system was actually free of air or not. They had to just use a pneumatic bleeder for a period of time, lock it off and hope for the best. And I said, look, you should always do a manual bleed at the end just to confirm, which they always did. And it worked really well. But it is very annoying. But yeah, PTFE tape, I should try that instead of using grease because it's a lot cleaner and you can just leave it in there. I used to leave the grease in there, it didn't matter. But yeah, it's a problem with that tool. It's not conclusive. That's the problem. Oh, hang on. Simon, I've got a good kit to fix that, Andy. I'll send you a link. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate that. Mike Adams, I'm learning how to order main and rod bearings, finding out about over and oversizing depending on whether the block or crank has been machined. Yes, and plastic gauge, very useful. But you can be quite careful with it. Plastic gauge. There's a video on that. God, was that the RAV4? I think it was the RAV4 we used the plastic gauge on to measure clearances, probably on the cam or the crank. I don't know. Can't remember now. Long time ago. Now then, Mike Adams. I know how to change engine parts, but I'm not an engine builder, so I'm learning the details as I go. To be perfectly honest, I haven't rebuilt hundreds of engines. I'm not specialized in engine rebuilds. Sure, I've rebuilt plenty of engines, but I wouldn't say that I am a guru. Now, Sheldon, for example, down in Oamaru, he is, as are quite a few of the techs that I know around the country, where, you get that one guy in the workshop, he's great at building engines, so he gets to build all the engines, right? The full builds, he does those because he's brilliant and doesn't make mistakes. So the other lads tend not to get too much experience. And that was sort of me when we had I've built plenty of SJ410 engines and 413s, Patrol engines, built a couple of those, the old 3.3s, not done a 4.2 yet. So that's why I'm looking forward to doing the Funbus engine. Although it'll be sad because we believe that's an original factory built engine. It's never been a part. We will find out. And obviously, a few motorbike engines over the years. But with the Jeeps, back in the UK, if the engine was real terminal, we'd just go and get another engine out of a scrap Jeep and put it in. It wasn't viable to do full rebuilds on all of the engines. It was just cheaper to get another second-hand one out of a scrap vehicle. So I have to think about things as well. I understand what needs to be done, but it's not fluid. I don't do it regularly enough to be able to just off we go, that's it done. It takes me a bit of time to get my head around it. So we always learn, we're always learning. Mike Adams, oh, here we go. There we go, yeah. Roger Heaps, good morning, Roger, and Mr. Heaps. Happy New Year 2026. Here we go. I make it sound like it's. I should have written that backwards. I know I should have written that backwards. I could have tried. I probably got it wrong. Roger says, "Good morning, Andy and crew. Been wrangling puppies. They'll be at that fun stage now. You imagine having a fight with all those puppies at once? That'd be great fun." Jim Haynes, Ragnar, the French cab. Renault. Ragnault. Renault. Yeah, we used to be a Renault dealership. I didn't get it. It was too far different. Purple Monkey, Renault. Yes, there we go. Look. Jim Haynes. Yes. I think I've caught up. Maybe caught up. Hang on. Nearly caught up. Simon Raw. Renault 5 GT Turbo. Now that's a car. Okay. I've got to relight my cigarette. We have a story. Renault 5 GT Turbo. Now, we used to be, before we were Renault, this is the family business, right, back in the UK. Norman Anchors York Limited, if you're going to Google it. That was my family's business down Gilligate in York. And there's a lot of history about this. So if you like history stuff, you can start to do a bit of research on that business. Norman Anchors, and then in brackets, York Ltd Limited. And they were in Gilligate, York. And in 1972, Dad managed to secure the Datsun franchise. Some of you heard this, so forgive me, but then it obviously changed to Nissan. And there was the little Nissan Cherry Turbo. So of course, Dad had to have one of those. He had his, being the managing director, he could choose whatever model of car he wanted as his car, So he chose, believe it or not, a Nissan Cherry Turbo, and it was a great little car. It was so much fun, and he was taken to school one day, Clifton Prep School in York, and the school was top of a hill, and then there was a long slopey downhill with a junction at the bottom, big open junction at the bottom. And it was snowing hard, and we've been battling our way from Wilberforce through all the snow in this little Cherry Turbo. The main roads are pretty clear, but the side roads are all still snowy. And we come past the school, and Dad's like, "Oh, we're going to turn around first," because he didn't want to stop, because he wouldn't be able to get going again. So he kept going, and we slithered our way down the hill, and about, 50, 100 meters from the bottom of the hill, he goes full lot right and puts the handbrake on and puts the car sideways. And we're sliding down the hill sideways, and it's slowly turning. It was like slow motion, right? It was turning so slowly. And then as he got the car backwards, we're still going down the hill, but we're now pointing back up the hill. He's there on the gas, feathering the throttle, trying to get some kind of grip. And he's on the handbrake, trying to slow the car down as well, with the back wheels. And we finally came to a rest at the bottom of the hill before we hit the curb. And then he's trying to get some momentum back up to get up the hill. I don't think we actually came to a halt. We sort of slid round and then back up the hill. So he kept it moving a little bit. Made it up the hill, chucked me out of the car with my brothers, chucked me out of the car, and then off he went, because he'd stopped at the top of the hill, you see, so he was able to go off and back down the hill and get to work. But so much fun, the Nissan Cherry Turbo. Now, fast forward, Nissan decided not to continue their franchise agreement with us, because we wouldn't move to the outer ring road of York, where all the other car dealerships were. So Dad managed to secure Renault, as I used to call it, Yorkshire with a Yorkshire accent, Renault. And of course, the Renault 5 Turbo came along, and so he got one of those. Man, that thing was a rocket. Cherry Turbo, that was fun, right? It was fun. It was forever spinning its front wheels. The Renault 5 Turbo was a bit more refined. It was able to put the power down. Whether it had limited slip diff in the front or what, I don't remember. I never really looked into it. But that thing, it was a point and shoot. You point it where you wanted to go, hit the throttle, turbo kicks in, and it was just like the Millennium Falcon. It was like light speed. As a kid, for me, it was like light speed. We had so much fun in that car. I mean, some of it I was scared shitless, don't get me wrong, but Dad knew how to drive. I'd give him that. He used to do a bit of rallying in the day, and he crashed plenty of cars as well. Well done, Dad. So he sort of knew the limits most of the time. But he used to fly. He used to drive way, way faster than I ever used to drive. you know, as I do now. I mean, in England, I used to drive like an idiot. But, yeah, fun times. Thanks, Dad. Cheers. So, Simon, I agree. Renault 5 Turbo could be a great project for you. But they'll be bloody expensive now. The ones that are still around, there won't be that many around. Most of them got, well, wrapped round lampposts, I would say. Jim Haynes. I always use pressure bleeding. And why not? It's quick. But for the students, it was just trying to explain to them that you're always going to see air with a pressure bleeder, which wasn't ideal. It sort of confused their understanding of what was going on. That was the problem. Jacob Vaughan, Happy New Year. A good day for boating on Lake Taupo. What brand of smoke today? For me, it's Dunhill Switch. Ooh, Dunhill. Nice. Pall Mall. There you go, look. That's all I ever smoke. Well, every now and again we get holidays because they've run out of Pall Mall. But they're not bad. I like that. These ones are called the extras. They're a bit longer than the normal length. And bizarrely, they're cheaper than the normal length. How does that work? I don't get it. But anyway, Roger Heaps sent a picture on Messenger. Oh my word, here we go. Jeez, there's all sorts going on here today. Messenger, there we go. Roger Heaps, there he is. Holy crap. Oh, hang on. Is that going to work? No, it's not going to work. Doesn't want to rotate. Okay. There you go. 12 kilograms now, that puppy. 12. That's almost double Marmite. Holy crap. Big dog. And it's not. That's little for what it's going to grow into. I've seen what they turn into. I mean, for a big dog, he doesn't scare me. I feel quite relaxed around him. But I tell you what, if you were on the wrong side of the fence trying to break in and that dog turned up, Zook, I always forget. Zeke. If Zeke turned up and you were trying to burgle in there, man, if you continued, you'd be asking for it. You got to just turn around and get the hell out of there. Big dog, massive head, and just nothing but muscle. Incredible dog. Not one for me though. No. That'll be the last of the room in the house. It would, in fact, it would just take over. I'd lose my sofa, right? It would take over the sofa in the lounge for sure, because it wouldn't be able to sit in a normal chair. Not a chance. Mike Adams, I'm in the process of rescuing a rebuilt Ford engine that spun 3 rod bearings from the former owners, using the crank and rods from my old engine to replace what they broke. 2 engines. Well, they broke 2 engines to make one good one. That's brilliant. I like doing that. And I used to do a lot of that kind of stuff with little Suzukis, you know, just pull them apart, swap bits around. I remember doing a Daihatsu engine. You're going to laugh at this. The Daihatsu engine, a Daihatsu 4-track. It was 2.8 non-turbo. Yes, the 4 tracks were 2.8. Charlie truck was 2.5, so it was 2.8, and that had worn the shells out. The crank was junk, so we pulled the engine out, and I had a spare crank that had ground with shells for a 2.5 for Edgar. Edgar was an Daihatsu F50. Which was the normal Jeep version, you know, the full roof, seats in the back kind of thing, of the F55, which was the pickup version that I had. So Mrs. Mechanic had the F50, which I paid £400 for, which was rotten. I had lots of welding, a whole new floor in there. And then I paid £200 for Charlie truck, F55. And we ran those machines for a few years. That Charlie truck was my daily driver for years. Towed the car trailer, went to go and pick up Jeeps in it, did all sorts of stuff. But we had to, they were renowned for rusting out. Not the chassis so much, but the shells. So I had to do lots and lots of welding, way more welding than a garage would ever bothered. But, you know, I used to just cut everything out, buy some 3mm plate, weld it all in, make my new floor. It was great. Good truck. Did lots of off-road adventures in that truck. And it was the kind of truck that you didn't care about too much, you know. It took a beating and wanted more. It was good for that. And anyway, go back to the 4-track. I had a measure up, and the 2.5 crank was the same as the 2.8. So I had one in stock, and it was redundant because it never got put in Edgar. Edgar got scrapped, unfortunately. So that crank went into the 4-track, put the shells in, bolted it all up, put it back in the vehicle, chopped as a carrot, ran it up, and it seized. It nipped up on one of the shells. It stopped the engine. Or did it stop the engine? Maybe I was turning it off and it seemed to stop real quick. Maybe that was it. So I drained the oil again, pulled the sump off in situ, pulled each of the caps off, looked at the shells, and I could see which shell was a bit too tight on its clearance. And anyway, the guy was coming to pick it up that afternoon. So whilst still lying under the vehicle, got me, what does he call it, on my leather person. Derek from Vice Grip Garage, leather person, right? Got me leather person and just scraped the shell. Right, this is what they used to do in the old days, right? That's what I was taught. You could scrape the shell, just back blade across the shell with a sharp blade, and then popped it back in, torqued it all back up, put the sump on, put the oil in, ran it up, left it idling for a little bit, turned it off, fixed. Perfect. Check the oil pressure. Oil pressure's good. No knocky noises, no. I only took a little bit off. It didn't need much, but that fixed the problem. There you go. Is that hillbilly? I don't think it is. I think that, you know, back in the day, that was quite acceptable on the old cars. And, you know, the shells should have been right. I mean, the shells were supplied with the crank. It shouldn't have been tight. It was tight, but only a little bit. Now, I can hear you all saying, Andy, how long did that engine last? Well, I'll tell you. That vehicle, Andrew Crosley, his name was. He was a real nice guy, got on with him very well. Looked very similar to me, actually, pretty gruff. He was a mountain rescue guy, a volunteer. Did some amazing rescues. Absolute top bloke. He'll be getting on a bit now, though. I think he was a bit older than I was at the time. And he ran that 4-track for a few years. And then he says, oh, I'm going to sell me 4-track. Are you interested? And I bought it back off him. And then we sprayed it in like a tan Desert Storm kind of colours. We did a few of our Jeeps back then like that. And then we used it as a patrol vehicle. Put a winch on the front of it and bits and pieces. Put a CB in it. Got its own toolkit and things. Sorted the tow bar out. Put some decent tyres on it. It might have even got a lift kit. I can't remember now. And we ran that vehicle until the floor fell out of it. It just rotted away. And then I think I sold it to somebody else. It went off to somewhere else and the engine was still fine. So there you go. It works, right? Just a little bit of care and attention, and, you know, it worked that time around. Now then, Jim Haynes. I figure he's talking about the Renault 5 GT Turbo rear engine, rear... Oh, no. I wish it was. Rear engine, rear drive rally car, which they also had to have a number for the street, which I've only seen a couple of. Those are like hen's teeth. And you're absolutely right. For them to enter the RST rally, or to be used in motorsport, I think in general, manufacturers had to produce 400 of that model to qualify to be used in a rally. And there is a story, I don't remember the details. I think it was Ford. It might have been the Cosworth. I don't know, right? The Sierra Cosworth. I can't remember the model. Sam might remember. But when the finished cars came off the production line and got parked up down the road, this is probably in a film actually, parked up down the road, they didn't have enough parts to finish the full 400. So they had guys go to the field where they were parked after they'd been counted off and included in the 400, rob the parts off they needed, take them around the back of the factory and put them back on the production line to go on to the next car so they could hit the target of 400. Bit of a scam, but I think they pulled it off. I'm sorry, I just don't remember the details. I think it was a Ford car, but I can't remember. But what a classic story, right? But no, those Renault 5 GT Turbo, the rally car ones with the mid-engine, they are ridiculous. And they were competing against the Metro 4x4, weren't they? That was a mid-engined Mini Metro for rallying as well. It might have been that one. I just can't remember. Too long ago. Simon, a cheap GT Turbo is going for £8,000 at the minute. I'd have a Fiat Cinquecento as a project. Oh, I have a Fiat Cinquecento as a project car. Hayabusa or Banshee 700 engine in it. That will be fun. That will be fun. The real Daz. Morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Daz. Welcome back to the workshop, mate. Better late than never. I don't mind when you join and when you leave. It's just a safe space for all of us. Just for a bit of a natter, safe space. It sounds a bit modern, doesn't it? It's a chat room. That's what we do. We just have a natter. We're covering all sorts of stuff today. It's great. Roger Heaps. One puppy going to a new home today. Another getting sorted as the new owner is 3 hours away from Wellington. So probably have to put him on a plane. On a plane, the little puppy. Wonder what's going on, will he? Simon. H2 engine swab. You should talk to Sheldon. Sheldon's been working on a Hayabusa with, what's he done? He's fitted a turbo, he's turbocharged it, I think. And the guy that owns it, he works with in the same building, is going for the New Zealand motorcycle speed record, I believe. They've done a lot of work to that engine, a lot. He'd be a good guy to speak to. So Sheldon in Oamaru, I'm sure you can track him down. Like I said before, Sheldon is a very, very clever, not only engine builder, but also able to modify the engines from a tuning perspective. He's got a lot of knowledge, as that guy. I always feel quite humbled when I'm down there and he's talking about stuff that he's done. And I understand most of the things he talks about, but he'll say something and I'm like, and I'll have to try and work it out. Or, I'll ask him, I'll say, well, what does that mean, Because that's how you learn. You've got to ask the questions. He's had so much experience. Used to work for Toyota. Very, very clever chap indeed. And a privilege to know him, to be honest. We get on very well together. A good friend. Mike Adams, the original Ford V8 stock had 170 horsepower at the crank. My replacement engine will have about 300 horsepower. Far more respectable, 300. That's something I've always found difficult to understand, is how low the horsepower output is of those big V8s over in the States. They were very lazy engines, weren't they, back then? But yeah, there's a lot of potential for tuning, isn't there? I've got another friend down the road, Craig. He's got a few old American muscle cars, and he rebuilds those kind of engines, puts blowers on them and all sorts of stuff, and it just makes them almost undrivable. He loves it. It spends his life buying tires, basically. Mike Adams, when you're a poor boy needing to get to work on Monday, you get inventive. You really, really do. You have to just make it work, right? Simon, Jim Haynes, it needs to be a 5 GT Turbo in white with a Pioneer sunstrip and the scoop spoiler on it. It does. That's the one. Jim Haynes, Carol Shelby told a story about painting the same car every day to show the officials they have made enough. That's brilliant. So much went on back in the day that they were just trying to bend the rules and break the rules and just get the job done. We need to get on the track. Jim Haynes, all the horsepower was tied up by the government because of emissions. Yeah, the emissions killed everything, didn't it? It was terrible. Ooh, I hear Mrs. Mechanic. The kitchen door has just opened. Might be a fresh coffee coming. What are we on? An hour and 20, near enough. Okay, another 10 minutes to go. No coffee yet. I'm still going with this one, it's all right. So, projects, going back about an hour. Projects, the go-kart. It's going to get finished. I pledge it will get finished, right? It's going to get finished. Don't know when, it's going to get finished. What we call a long-term project, and I'm sure you've all had a long-term in the back of your workshop kind of project. I've just got to work out what I'm going to do with that front end, because that's all that needs to be done. I need to weld up the front end, finish welding up the other tubes into position, and then build the thing back up. And we're starting to find the bits for it again. I found the wheels. They're in the fun bus, I think. Yes, they are, as is some other bits and pieces. The engine stand, more important. I want to get, the sooner I get that finished, the better, really, because then we can get the engine on it and start pulling the engine down, and that'll be interesting. And I think we'll do that in this workshop. There's a lot more room in this workshop for that. So yes, there's that. But I have another project, and many years ago, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I got an email from a guy that works in Invercargill, believe it or not. And he said, hey, this bike's just come in. My mate's got it. He wants to sell it. Are you interested? Because I'm always on the lookout for old farm bikes, especially. And it's a Suzuki TS175. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I think, Roger, if you're still on, I think you gave me one as well about a year before, maybe 2 years before, which is up in the shed, in the dry, by the way. I'll have to dig that one out. But the one that I purchased was used by, it was a linesman, a guy that goes to go and check the power lines. And I was told when I bought it, it was running, and there is an ignition key for it somewhere. It's on a bit of string, but it's not on my key hook, and it's not in the bike, so it's somewhere. I might have to bypass the ignition to start off with, but the plan is to get that into the workshop today, on the hoist today, and we're going to take a look as to what it needs and will it start. I don't know. The fuel in the tank's bound to be way off by now. The carb's got to be taken off and cleaning. There's going to be a bit of work to get it fired up. But I've never had it running, so I don't know. We'll have to see. It's in pretty bad state. But given the history of the bike, and I think it was road registered, given the fact it's got indicators and stuff, I don't know. I can find out. I've got a contact at NZTA now that could maybe have a look for me. Hopefully, I'll have a chat with her. Kelly, if you're listening, Kelly, looking forward to that. Ultimately, would like to get the vehicle back on the road to do enough to get it through its warrant of fitness. Well, actually recert, because it's going to be deregistered now, obviously. It would need to go through certification process. And of course, warrant of fitness will be issued by some Reggio and actually be able to ride it on the road. Be pretty cool, actually, given the history of the bike. It hasn't been used on farms, so that's my project, my next project, for me, my project that I want to make a start on. So we'll do the initial inspection today, and then I'll order some parts based on what we need, and then during 2026 we'll get it back on the hoist and we'll start to do some work on the bike. I'm hoping it starts, otherwise we've got an engine job, haven't we? We do have a spare bike, but it might be different, and I'd like to do both bikes. It'd be great. Simon Roll, there was a 125 running around, 125 running around with welded rock arms. Got the lad going on Sunday afternoon. Seen the bike going round for a good 5 years. I'd love to know what happened to it. Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. That is the classic story, isn't it? Simon, the rocker arms had snapped. What the hell? How do you manage that? Billy FZR. Happy New Year, Andy. All this talk about SJs. So we've had some snow today, so would have been rude not to have a drive to Langdale Forest. About 18 degrees up there, too much for my road. 18 inches up there, too much for my road tyres. We used to get a lot of snow up in Langdale. It was, and Bickley, where we used to live. A phenomenal place, to be honest, in the wintertime. Great fun. I used to jump in, scoop our loading shovel and clear the driveway of snow so we could get all the Jeeps out down to the off-road site. And it was quite a steep descent down to the off-road site as well. So it was quite, it was an interesting thing. And we had trailers and cabins and all sorts of stuff to take down every day. And yeah, it was a bit iffy, but very good, Billy. Very good. Yes, lots of memories up there. And I would like, and I've talked to Mrs. Mechanic about this as well, is I think we've got to a point now where we can talk a bit more about that life that I had in the UK and the business that I had. And once we've got all the stuff copied onto this RAID drive, which is going to take Mrs. Mechanic literally weeks, right? There's nearly 1,000 videos. I mean, sure, maybe 100, 150 are live streams. So there's still all the rest rushes. It's taken her a very long time to copy and categorize all the stuff. So we've got to bear with her on that. She's still on hard drive number 1. She's about a third the way through. And there's another 5 or 6 hard drives to go. But the first one is the big one that she's doing, that has most of the videos on it. So, but none of the rushes. That's all she's doing at the moment is building directories and copying the final videos and the thumbnails. So we've got them. And we know that they're safe, because those hard drives are getting on a bit now. Some of them are 8 years old and they could fail at any time. So Bill Betts, sorry Bill, didn't recognize your Billy FZR. Yeah, Bill, it was good times. It really was. It was. And just between you and me, there was a day, and you'll remember this, you'll know what I'm talking about. There was a day where I really upset you. And I often think of that day, whether it's in my dreams or during the day or whatever. And I learned a lot from that occurrence. And I hope it hasn't tarnished our friendship, to be honest. So again, you know what I'm talking about. You know what happened. I was very stressed that day. I lost my rag, and I didn't mean to. And I'm very, very sorry for it. Thanks, Bill. Roger Heaps, I gave you a TF185. TF, that's right. It was a farm bike special. It run, but oil pump was suspect. Thank you for reminding me. So that is in Ben's shack, which is actually a wood shack, but it's in the dry. It's safe. So that will stay complete. I'm not going to rob that for parts. It's different to the TS. But it's great to have those 2 bikes, and they will both be projects in the future for sure. Mike Adams, granted, 70s era American V8s were way down on horsepower due to emissions. Most, especially big blocks, had stump pulling torque. They did. They were very, very torquey machines, weren't they? Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. It's a shame, really, in England, we didn't really get many of the American V8s. They just didn't come in unless somebody brought one in. And they were nearly always left-hand drives, so they were a bit weird for people. I saw them at shows. They were interesting, I found them interesting. And my mate, Matt, had a Land Rover with the V8 in, and that was cool to work on. And I've worked on a few here in New Zealand. Not engine strip kind of work on, but we had a Range Rover come in that wasn't running very well, and God, that was corrosion inside the dizzy cap from memory. It's an old one, 3.5 V8. Fixed it. Sorry, just recovering from the whole bill thing. Yeah, struck a nerve, did that one. Mike Adams, my engine was a 170 horsepower, but around 350 pounds of torque. Now on the rebuild, I'm going to have about 425 torque. So what are you doing to the engine to boost the torque and the power output? Are you putting a different cam in it? Have you gone for high compression pistons? Have you skimmed the head? What is it you do? Bigger carb, What modifications are you making to get that extra horsepower? And how do you know what you're going to get at the end of it? Have you spoken to the people supplying you the parts, have given you if you buy this, it'll give you this much more, that kind of stuff. Interesting to find out. I mean, I watched obviously lots of TV programs on American muscle car rebuilds and bits and pieces over the years, and they talk about that kind of stuff. But it'd be interesting to know what you've done to that engine to get that extra performance. Roger, the 185 has a different frame to the 125. It's 2 down tubes at the front of the engine due to the exhaust outlet on a 185. Well, the one that I've got here, the linesman bike, I'm going to call it, is a one. I think it's a one. Maybe it is a 185. Hang on, I took some frame photos the other day. Bear with me. Bear with me. There we are. Oh, hang on. Oh yeah, it is a TS18. Its frame number is TS1852 dash. Hang on. Just for reference, dash 21144. So we're going to reach out to my Suzuki contact and get a service manual for it. They'll be able to supply that, and they'll also supply me all the parts that I need as well. And they'll be able to tell me exactly what it is, because it's nice to know what you're working with, right? But I think it's been chopped around a little bit over the years. But I think the exhaust's still original, which is good. One little... Oh, it's Mrs. Mechanic. Hello, Bill. I often think about you when I put the kettle on. Yes, Bill did enjoy it. You enjoyed your cup of tea, didn't you, Bill? Hey? Down by the Arga. Who was it? Was it? It might have been Bill. I'm not going to embarrass you, Bill. I think our electric kettle got put on the Arga. I don't really remember who it was. To make a brew. And the kettle got melted. I think a memory's just come back. Was that you, Bill? Something I'd do, I think. Simon, I'd love to see the new techs find a fault on a Dizzy in a modern day plug. In the modern day of plug it and read codes. Lost skill is know the sounds engines make when spark timing is out. You're quite right, Simon. I think a lot of that skill set is very, very quickly disappearing. It's a problem that I think I've covered this before. Here in New Zealand, a lot of the old school sort of senior mechanics now are retiring. They're leaving the industry. South Island seems to be a hot spot at the moment, the southern part of the South Island. Some have just dropped to limited hours, just in readiness for retirement, which is fine. They deserve it, right? I don't blame them at all. I mean, their skill set is fundamental. It's necessary. But those skills often don't get passed down, unfortunately, and then they become lost. Talking of skills, I've got a couple of ATVs that I was given a few years ago, both of which need stator rewinds. And the plan was, and I need to revisit this, was to find... There used to be people around New Zealand, ex-electrical rewind people that used to rewind stators, motorcycle stators. And they are retiring or have retired and stopped doing it. They would work out their shed at home for a few years, making a bit of pocket money. And then they'd finally give up because they were getting too old. They couldn't see what they were doing anymore, Not what that feels like. And the plan was to reach out to one of these old lads, take one of the stators down, and for them to show me how to rewind it and to do it all properly, and to learn that skill and to get it into a video. And I've sort of reached out a couple of times, and the one guy that I had lined up pulled out. He wasn't able to do it anymore for whatever reason. I don't remember. push comes to shove, then I'll go to, if they're happy with it, I'll reach out to the electrical rewind place that supplied me the resin, the varnish that you put on at the end, and see if they'd be happy for me to film the process of rewinding this stator for me, so I can learn what needs to be done. I've got a pretty good idea, but I don't want my video to be Andy's pretty good idea of how to do it. I want the video to be, this is how it's done. This is the right way of doing it. And to have all the tips and tricks and the important information embedded in the video. Again, education, right? So I've been holding off until I can lock in that knowledge base. So again, I've got all the stuff, got the resin, probably gone off by now, but I've got all the wire and all the stuff I need to do it. Plus, once it's done, the bike's usable. And Mrs. Mechanic can have a quad bike for charging around the garden on, you know, a four-wheel drive one, which would be great. Be able to tow a trailer. So yeah, skill set, Simon, it's disappearing real quick. And I think the only way to capture that skill set in some way, whatever the skill is to get it on a video and get it on the channel. And that's the underlying theme moving forward for the channel as well. I need to really pull out all the stops for that kind of stuff. Mike Adams, converting from 2-barrel carburetor to a 4-barrel carb. That'll make it a lot more responsive. And intake, a mildly upgraded cam. Yep. Going to put shorty headers on if I can find to fit the ear. Oh, the year. Mike Adams, 0.3 overbore. Bill, hi Emma, hands up. Yes, I put an electric kettle on your Aga. And oh, no hard feelings, Andy. Thanks, Bill. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Mike Adams, the horsepower increase is a ballpark guesstimate from seeing very similar builds of the same size engine within 10 to 15 horsepower or so. Excellent. Really cool. Do you intend to put it on a dyno afterwards? Would you be prepared to do that? It's just to find out what you're going to get at the end of it? Unfortunately, dynos are pretty expensive, so I understand if not, you know. Simon, years ago, I went to buy a bike for parts. It was popping and banging. Gave the guy his money, pushed it off his drive, put the plug caps on the right cylinders. He was sick as a chip. You can't do that. I've done that before, right? What was it? It was a Suzuki Samurai, long wheelbase. It was from Graham K. Bill will know this. K is top of the hill, out the back of Scalby, heading down towards Hackness. It was a long wheelbase Samurai 1.3, and they'd done. I think they had their head off. They'd blown the head gasket or something. They'd had their head off, been tinkering around, and it had never run right since. It would start, but it wouldn't rev. And when I got there, popped the bonnet, had a quick look, and I noticed immediately that the ignition coil, the earth and the positive are the wrong way around, the power supply in the ground. So I undid the nuts, 8mm nuts, undid the nuts, turned it around, put them back on the right around, started it up, off we go, fixed it. There's your £600 or whatever it is, and drove it home, fixed. Mrs. Mechanic ran that vehicle for years, then we sold it, and then it went to a holiday campsite place down near Bridlington, I think it was. And then out of the blue, a few years later, the guy rang me up, hey, it's failed the MOT, do you want to buy it? Yeah, I'll buy it back. So I went down, picked it up, brought it back, made it into a fleet vehicle, put some more seats and better seats in the back and stuff, and it went out earning some money around the forest. And it had an accident. Mrs. Mechanic was driving down the road to Hackness, and there's a narrow bit of the road where there's banks either side. There's a bank on one side, a little bank on the other side, and then a drop off down to a field. And she met a tractor coming the other way, a big 4-wheel drive tractor with probably a muck spreader on the back or something. And anyway, she couldn't stop in time, and she hit this tractor. She hit the tractor so hard it blew the front tire off the rim. That's how hard she hit it, and it damaged the front axle, bent the chassis. The wing mirror smashed the glass, the driver's door glass, so she got glass all over her. It damaged the door. And I got a phone call. There's been an accident. I'm like, oh no, shit. So I went down, got the trailer, dragged her back, and we had to do some work on the chassis and straighten the chassis out. And we never quite got it perfect, but it was good enough for what we needed it for. But yeah, ever since then, been a bit deaf in her right ear from that bang of the glass, you know. Not good. She was lucky she wasn't more injured, to be fair, because the vehicle took a fair whack. And what a force to knock a tyre off a tractor's rim. Not good at all, to be fair. Not good. Where do we get to? Yes, so. Always better, Simon. Even if you know what the problem is, just go around the corner, out of sight. Because man, the look on Graham's face when I fixed it within 5 minutes of being there, he was gutted. He was like, oh, because it was I think it was his granddad's runabout, and he's like, oh, don't really want to sell it now. Oh, he could keep using it, you know. And I'm like, no, there's your money, bye. You know, shouldn't have done that. Should have done that just down the road, because it would have gone on the trailer anyway. I had the trailer there. Mike Adams, last comment, I think. I'd like to put it on a chassis dyno just to find out what it's going to be putting out on the ground, just for S&Gs, shits and giggles, curiosity. Yeah, I think it's, you know, if you can do that, I think it'd be a great pat on the back, you know, once it's done. Plus, while it's on the dyno, you know, you could maybe get it tuned, get the carbs set up properly and everything. You know, so you can see your torque curve and your power curves, just getting the best you can out of it after all that hard work. Mike Adams, I plan on trying the drag strip at least once. It's not a race car, but curious what the 4,800 pounds, 2,200 kilograms will do. Holy shit. Yes, that'd be fun. Simon. Look on that guy's face was a picture. There it was. It's all about what you know, isn't it? End of the day. Mike Adams, as long as I get an eventually on the time card, I'll be happy just to say I've done it. Yes, I agree. And sometimes when a project's finished, it's like, oh, I was enjoying that. You know, CB750, for example, you know, I enjoyed doing that. We did lots of really good videos on that one. Very similar story, Simon. My Uncle Ted, the late Uncle Ted, who's passed away years ago, top bloke. He taught me a lot of old school stuff. Used to love his old British motorcycles. Spent many a time working through the night, late into the night with him in his little shed. He had, I think it was a Renault. It was Donna's car, his daughter's car, Donna. If you're there, Donna, hi, Andy here. You won't recognize me. Lots of stories of Donna. That was running really rough. I think they just bought the car. That was running really rough, and the plug leads were there was 2 plug leads the wrong way around, and he worked it out, got it fixed. Simple stuff, right? But you know, it's also a very simple mistake to make, and an easy mistake to make, in all honesty. Well, I think there we go. That's it for the comments. I think we're probably way over time. So today I've got to get the engine hoist off the stand, bring in the linesman bike, and start filming. Watch out for the video crew. Okay, thank you all for watching this live stream, the first one of 2026. We're going to continue the fortnightly live streams. I'm not planning any trips to South Island until about April time, so it'll just be, you know, so there won't be any weekly live streams until I end up in the South Island. I don't know quite know how the logistics behind that yet. Roger, if you can just keep those bits and pieces there for me. Hopefully I'm going to be driving down, but I just don't know. we'll have to wait and see. Right, well, that's about it. Enjoy 2026. Hope it's a brilliant year for all of you, and you know, keep up with those projects. Thank you very much for your time and for supporting the channel. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you again, Bill. All right, crew, take care. Cheers. Over and out.